Welcome everyone to this 2021 CiscoLive session. This session is about driving the revolution of secure networking with SASE architectures. My name is Rudresh Veerappaji, and in this session, I'll cover how security and networking are merging into a technology category known as SASE, which stands for Secure Access Service Edge. Now, you may or may not have heard about what SASE is so far, but you might realize that your own organizations have already taken steps towards SASE transformations. As SASE is very much a journey, and in the coming months and years, you'll see more and more companies adopting the SASE architecture. Now let's take a look at the agenda for this session. First, we're going to explain what SASE is and why it exists. Next, we will see why Cisco is well positioned to deliver SASE and what the Cisco solution looks like and its components. And lastly, for the bulk of the time, we will go into a live demonstration so you can see firsthand how easy we have made it to have SASE implemented in your organization, no matter your industry type or network size. Now let's start with a quote from Gartner to provide an introduction into why SASE is such a popular term these days. The quote goes, "The enterprise perimeter is no longer a location. It is a set of dynamic edge capabilities delivered when needed as a service from the cloud." Now this quote illustrates the change in how businesses operate and that networking and security must evolve in response to these business needs. Let's examine some of these business changes that explain why Gartner and several other industry analysts have come up with SASE. Now, SASE is actually just a natural evolution of networking and security caused by the mass adoption of cloud services and users working remotely. Previously, companies largely had their remote users and branch offices connect to their headquarters, where they had a centralized security stack, which consisted of firewall, intrusion prevention, web filtering, data loss prevention mechanisms, etc. And all traffic just ran through these services at the headquarters. Now, due to an increased demand for cloud applications like Office 365, Dropbox, WebEx, Salesforce, etc., more of the business applications now reside in the cloud than they do in the enterprise data center at headquarters. Following this trend, companies have adopted Sd-Wan to improve performance and lower costs by reducing their dependence on MPLS or private circuits and installing direct internet access at branch offices. Plus, working from home or anywhere really these days has seen explosive growth in recent years. With the majority of user traffic going directly to the cloud and not headquarters, robust security has to be applied somewhere else. And in fact, these branch offices and remote users are now accounting for nearly 68% of compromises in recent attacks. That is where cloud security comes in. It delivers those necessary security controls in the cloud. SASE is about the combination of Sd-Wan and cloud-native security effectively that enables users to work securely no matter where they are. I think many of you may have already started down this journey by replacing or reducing dependence on MPLS circuits, private circuits, consuming cloud services, or protecting your remote workforce using a cloud security solution. Now, Cisco benefits from having strong solutions in the key areas of SASE, which is networking and security. Cisco SD-WAN ensures a predictable user experience for applications and provides a seamless multi-cloud architecture while integrating robust, best-in-class security. Cisco Umbrella, on the other hand, delivers a number of security functions directly from the cloud, including some that your organization may not already have, and we will take a deeper look at these details in the coming slides. Of course, these solutions simplify operations with automation and cloud-based management, and they tie into SecureX and third-party systems and leverage threat intelligence from Cisco Talos. Now let's take a deeper look into Umbrella. Cisco Umbrella is a key component of our SASE architecture. Cisco Umbrella encompasses many different security functions. and we will review some of them during the live demo as well today. Besides being cloud delivered, Umbrella is built natively in the cloud using containers and microservices, so it's highly flexible and scalable. Starting on the left in the slide, since DNS is the first step in nearly all internet connections, it's an ideal first layer of defense to enforce security and block domains associated with malware, phishing, or any unacceptable requests. Secure Web Gateway is a full web proxy that provides URL layer visibility, security, and enforcement for your web traffic. Some of its features include SSL decryption, antivirus, malware scanning, file sandboxing for unknown files, and the ability to block over 100 file types such as executables, .exe, zip, etc. Umbrella's cloud-delivered firewall provides firewall services without the need to deploy and maintain and upgrade physical or virtual appliances at each site. Just like a regular firewall, you can block traffic at layer 3 or layer 4, as well as by application at layer 7. CASB is helpful in seeing what cloud apps are running in your network, including potentially risky ones being used by your users, and gives you the ability to block specific apps and have granular controls over these applications. We have visibility into over 15,000 cloud apps and granular controls that let you block uploads to cloud storage platforms or block posts or shares to social media apps, and essentially more granular control. Cisco Talos, combined with over 620 billion internet requests a day, enables us unprecedented threat intelligence into malicious domains, IPs, URLs, and files. And last but not the least, SecureX, which is our integrated security platform, unifies visibility, enables automation, and strengthens security across Cisco as well as third-party security tools. Next, the Cisco Sd-Wan and Umbrella integration enables you to simply infuse effective cloud security throughout your Cisco Sd-Wan fabric in a matter of few minutes. This slide describes many of the ways our SASE solution reduces cost and complexity, delivers flexible and consistent security, and does this all with centralized management. Now you have hands-off automation in the sense you can integrate SD-WAN branches to Umbrella in a matter of few minutes using auto tunnels, using multiple high available pairs of tunnels, SIG tunnels connecting each of the SD-WAN branches to Umbrella data centers. You can do equal cost multipath for load balancing. And in terms of simplifying the management aspect, the entire SD-WAN overlay fabric will be managed through Vmanage controllers and integrate seamlessly. A policy-based steering is something you can leverage as well to more granularly and selectively push application traffic towards the secure internet gateway tunnels going to Umbrella. Or you can just send all untrusted traffic to Umbrella as well. You also have the secure web gateway and cloud-delivered firewall inside of Umbrella that you can leverage for these SD-WAN brand sites. Now, this all results in less time and cost associated with deployment, monitoring, and maintenance, as well as a reduction in hardware at these branch offices. Our solutions have been deployed by customers with as small as just one location to as large as hundreds or thousands of locations across the world, so we can help you achieve the flexibility and scale your company requires. And a quick highlight before I jump into illustrating some of this using my demo. Cisco's experience and reputation in networking and security is well proven, and we deliver a comprehensive SASE solution that you can trust. Cisco protects 100% of Fortune 100 companies and has more market share than any other SD-WAN or security vendor. Cisco solutions that enable SASE have been actually around for several years, and in fact, the SASE solution won the CRN Tech Innovators Award in 2020. And the solution is validated by several third-party efficacy tests like by Forrester, AV testing, etc. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the demo. Okay, so let me start my demonstration by illustrating a user experience when it's sitting behind a branch and trying to access traffic or cloud applications in the internet. Now here is a user, and this is a remote desktop connection that I've done. And this user, this particular desktop or user is sitting behind a branch. And I'm going to log into one of the browsers here. And this particular user currently is completely unprotected without any components of the SASE architecture. Now I'm going to walk you through some of the typical activities of a user in terms of workflow, so to speak. So I just open up a browser. Let's take a quick look at the current IP address that I see for this particular user. The user here has an IP address with 128.101.222.24. So this is the IP address of the branch, the public IP address associated with the branch directly. Now you'll notice that once we have the SASE implemented in the course of a few minutes to follow, so this IP address is going to change to reflect umbrella data centers. This is one thing to keep in mind. Now another quick test I want to do is a user sitting here is going to try to access some servers out there in the internet and over specific ports. In this case, I'm going to do a specific port test for 444. And I can see that I can successfully go and connect to this particular TCP 444 port using some port test site. All right, so we can eventually deploy security such that we have granular control to be able to control what type of traffic is allowed outbound. Another quick test is access to some social media apps. In this case, I'm going to access Facebook. You can see the Facebook page loads quickly. No issues there right now. But if you would like to have security needs to be able to control, maybe access to social networking sites or file access sites, whatnot. So currently you see that this is completely unprotected without any such enforcements. Now, another quick test is accessing a malware test sites. In this case, I'm just simulating a user who is intentionally or unintentionally logging into one of these sites and clicking on one such file here. And this is just a malware test site. I'm going to click on download and try to download this malware file. And you can see that we are able to download this particular malware file successfully. And it's not a good thing. So the local the antivirus on the machine has actually detected this and blocked this. But even before this, we should be able to block this particular domain entirely. So in this case, we are able to get to this particular site and able to download or initiate download to this malware file. Now, this was basically a series of tests for an unprotected user sitting behind a branch. Now, what we're going to do in the next few minutes is we will go back and implement SASE and go walk through all the components and what does it exactly take to build that out. So I'm going to minimize this that particular user session. And here I'm back to my admin workstation. And what I want to show here is a Vmanage. And Vmanage is basically the management console for Sd-Wan, for Cisco Sd-Wan. So I'm going to log into this one. So I have my Sd-Wan overlay in here. So right now, what you see is that when you log into Sd-Wan, which is the Vmanage, which is our management controller for Sd-Wan, in the main dashboard, you get to see quickly an aggregated view of your organization. In this case, it says I got around 5 branches in this case, a few controllers, vSmart, Vbond, Vmanage. And I see the status of the network in the sense how many control connections are up, what does the WAN connectivity look like, what is the transport interface distribution in terms of throughput, what is the WAN edge health status, what are the top applications, and then in terms of application aware routing, how does the health of these several parts look like? So I see loss latency and jitter explained in here. So I can dig deeper into any of these sections by expanding here and then gather more inputs. But for the purposes of this particular session, we're going to focus on how do I build out the SASE architecture. So Sd-Wan is going to basically leverage what are called templates, and templates are reusable constructs which you can use to be able to build out configurations end of the day and push it out to hundreds of thousands of branches in a matter of few minutes. Now, in this case, I'm looking at branch 2. So branch 2 is the device where I have basically the user sitting behind branch 2, and I want to deploy my SASE architecture or the SIG tunnels from my Sd-Wan branch to Umbrella. In this case, what I'm going to do is illustrate to you what are the exact components that you would need to build out such integration. So you come to what is called feature templates, essentially two types of templates, device templates and feature templates. So feature templates represent individual small set of feature constructs, and the device templates represents the main anchor point to which you attach multiple feature templates, so to speak, and then eventually attach the branch sites to those device templates and push out configurations. Now, staying with feature templates, I search for SIG, which stands for Secure Internet Gateway, and I basically have just two types of SIG templates here. And that's all typically I need. So the first one is SIG credentials, which is important. So when I expand this, so I see that I have SIG credentials template with a few entries in here, few attributes. So I see I'm saying here the SIG provider I'm going to be using is Cisco Umbrella. And you need to basically fill out a few of these parameters like organization ID, registration key, and secret. So you can add this manually from your Umbrella portal, or leverage this option to get all these keys automatically when you have your smart accounts synchronized with both your Umbrella and Sd-Wan, which automates the entire process of integrating Umbrella with Sd-Wan. So in this case, I'm going to cancel this and come back. So let's take a look at the next SIG template. So we went over the SIG credentials. It essentially has the corresponding organization ID, secret, and the API key. The next and the second component that you would need for such integration is what is called a SIG template in this case. So when I edit this and show you what we have in here, so basically again here we are saying the SIG provider I'm using is Umbrella. And here we basically have the options to build multiple IPsec tunnels. In this case, one pair of IPsec tunnel. So I see IPsec 1 and then IPsec 2. So IPsec 1 is configured to connect to the Umbrella primary data center, and IPsec 2 to connect to Umbrella secondary data center. And as you can see, we are not mentioning any IP addresses or any domains or anything like that. All we are saying is we want to have a couple of IPsec tunnels in one pair and then connect them to the nearest, closest Umbrella data centers. And in the back end, Sd-Wan is going to automatically figure out what that is and ensure connectivity to Umbrella data centers. Now, in terms of high availability, you can run these tunnels in pairs. So in this case, I have one pair, IPsec 1 being the active tunnel, and then for the backup, IPsec 2. And I can have 4 such pairs of tunnels running in parallel, and I can do equal cost load balancing with 4 active tunnels and 4 standby or backup tunnels. And that's pretty much it in terms of the 2 SIG components that you need when you build out such an integration. SIG credentials and then SIG template. And the last piece that you would need essentially is defining where you would like, or what type of traffic do you want to send to Umbrella. So let me illustrate that with this example, with looking at the corresponding feature template. So in this case, I'm going to be looking at branch 2 and specifically the template for VPN or VRF10. So what I want to do in this case is redirect traffic for this particular VPN 10. Let's say this is probably my guest users connecting and terminating in this particular VRF10. I can basically leverage our service route over here and add a route as simple as that and saying all untrusted traffic bound to the internet, I'm going to redirect it and send it to the SIG tunnel, in this case connecting to Umbrella. So I can put a generic route like that so that it can catch all the untrusted traffic going out into the internet and then send it to Umbrella for security. Or I can make it even more granular and use policy-based routing using data policies under the policy constructs here that I'm highlighting, and make it very application specific and redirect traffic to Umbrella as well. Now for this particular demo, we are just going to use the service route with such a default route for untrusted traffic going out to the internet. So I click on add. When I add this, I have this particular component updated, and I'm going to push this configuration out to this branch too. How does that look like? right? So I go to the next step over here. And just before I push this particular configuration, I can take a quick look into the config diff, which describes what is the exact configuration that is going out to the branch device. So I do a config diff here, and I can get a side-by-side diff. And you'll be able to see here, there is a color-coded green, basically, coloring here that illustrates this is the additional configuration we are pushing to the device for this particular change I'm implementing. So in this case, we're just mentioning or saying this is the traffic that we want to send to SIG. All right, looks good. So there is no typo in terms of configuration or anything like that, that you can do a quick check towards the end. And I'm good to go, and I'll push this configuration. Now, once I send this configuration out, the Vmanage is going to render this config and push this down to the corresponding branch devices. So in this case, this is branch 2. So it'll take a couple of seconds. We'll wait for the configuration to be pushed out to branch 2. So what you'll see right after this, once this configuration is pushed out, is our branch 2 now has the necessary integrations to form the SASE architecture with Umbrella, where in each of the Sd-Wan branches, in this case, although it is just one branch, it is the same workflow to send this sort of configurations from Vmanage to hundreds of thousands of branches in a matter of few minutes. So this configuration, we have successfully pushed it down to the device, so we should be good to go. Now let's basically take a quick look to make sure our integration with Umbrella is good post this configuration change. So I'm going to go to my monitors network section and go to this branch number 2. And then let's expand to see that my SIG tunnels, so secure internet gateway tunnels to Umbrella are up and up. So in this case, I do see Ipsec 1 and Ipsec 2. Both of them are in administration status up and operational status up. So I'm good on the SD-WAN side. So let's quickly take a look from the Umbrella side to make sure our connectivity from this particular SD-WAN branch has come up. So let's log into Umbrella. And in a moment, we'll go to the corresponding section to validate that. All right. So this is our Umbrella main dashboard. And I do see that there are 2 active tunnels over here that will come up. So when I click on this and go to check my network tunnels, I do see a couple of Ipsec tunnels, Ipsec 1 and Ipsec 2, that we did instantiate from the branch 2 from SD-WAN. Both of them are up. And I do see it is connected to Los Angeles data center for primary and Palo Alto, California for the secondary data center. So if we go in the state, both of the tunnels are active. Now the next step is the post this type of integration, we should be able to confirm that the user who was unprotected earlier, let's go and take a look at the user experience right now. So let's open a browser session again and redo the same tests we did earlier and check the user experience in this case. All right, so new browser session. So let's do a quick IP check. So post the integration of SD-WAN with Umbrella with respect to our SASE architecture, let's check what is the IP address. So the IP address now I see is 146.112, which represents our Umbrella data center, in this case, Los Angeles, California. So we are looking at traffic, which is getting redirected to Umbrella successfully, and we are able to see the public IP addresses represented by the Umbrella data center. Now let's do some tests in terms of user access. So we were able to do a port 444 test earlier, and I was able to successfully go out and connect and without any checks. So right now when I try to redo the test, and it is showing that I am not able to access port 444. And you'll see that there are some enforcements I've made before on Umbrella portal, and we'll go through them right after this to illustrate how you can basically deploy your firewall rules to control access to such ports. All right, eventually it failed out, so I'm not able to access that port. Let's do another test, maybe to go and access a social media application. And now I see when I try to go to Facebook, it says Umbrella is detecting that Facebook, is basically filtered out for content filtering, and we're not allowing access to this because this is a security that's enforced right now within Umbrella. Let's do another quick test for malware. So when I log in and try to access the malware site, so I'm able to log into the malware site, which is okay. But can I go ahead and download a malware file? So I click on this and try to download a file, and immediately Umbrella recognizes that that's a security threat and it blocks from downloading such a malware file. These were a few, security tests, but you can see a drastic shift from the unprotected user scenario that was before. And after our integration and implementation of SASE architecture, you see the user is completely protected right now. Now let's go back into our umbrella for the security and see what type of policies do we have that we can implement and customize. Now I'm going to go to policy section over here, and you have three main types of policies that you can implement. The first one is DNS policies, which is going to be for DNS trigger traffic, the first layer of defense. And then the second one is firewall policy, which is basically your layer 3, layer 4, or even layer 7 application aware firewall rules that you can define. And then you have web policies, which is the most widely used, and you have a whole bunch of options that you can leverage to tune control for web traffic. The first, to take a quick look into DNS policy. So DNS policy, you can define, so in this case, I'm just leveraging default policy, and you have a whole bunch of options to tune this. So you can apply it to very specific identity types, like maybe just for branches or for remote users or for roaming users. So, but in this case, I'm just applying this for all identities. And you have a bunch of other options to configure high-level security setting, content setting. You can basically implement some file analysis. You can also implement what is called intelligent threat proxy, wherein depending on the type of domain that the umbrella is seeing for that particular DNS query that was initiated, umbrella can go and start doing intelligently proxy for specific sessions, not for all, and do even SSL decryption to be able to understand and learn more about the ongoing session, to be able to finally give a disposition of whether the session is to be allowed or not, depending on the security level or the risk level rather. All right, so that's the DNS policy, but for our integration with Sd-Wan and umbrella for the SASE architecture, the most important pieces are the firewall policy and the web policy. So let's take a look at the firewall policy. So when I come to the firewall policy section, I just have a couple of sequence rules in this case, and this you can expand it to multiple such rules. So an example here is we did a test for blocking port 444, right? So let's go ahead and edit this particular rule and see what type of options we have. So I've got a rule name over there, put in a small description, and I see for the rule criteria, I have a whole bunch of options to see protocol, what type of protocol do I want to apply this rule for, TCP, UDP, or ICMP? Do I want to associate this particular rule to specific tunnels? Maybe in this case, I have 2 tunnels coming in, so I can specifically associate different type of firewall rules for different branch sites as well, to make it as granular as required. But you can define these rules if they have common security needs across all branches with a few simple rules as well. I can also define source IP addresses, source ports, destination IP, destination port. In this case, for our tests that we just did a few moments ago, we wanted to basically block destination port 444. So all I did was define 444 as the destination port. And I can actually leverage this particular option to be able to schedule and expire, and even set an expire option for this particular rule so that this is time sensitive. I have options to gather hit counters, and then finally the rule action, whether to block traffic for this particular traffic type that we identified, or allow traffic for this and block everything else. And then I have my logging enabled and firewall rule being enabled and active. So that's pretty much it in terms of defining your firewall sequence rules. And of course, you can define application type as well for these sequence rules. And I have a last catch-all entry for the default rule, which is just allowing everything else, and blocking very specific ports and protocols defined above, so that these firewall rules are going to be implemented top-down. Now let's take a look at web policies, which is the most interesting part, wherein you have a whole bunch of options to define very granularly what type of web policies you want to implement. So first off, to start from top left, so you have this particular web policy. I'm just using default web policy in this case. Is applied to all types of identities, whether it's branch sites or roaming users, mobile users, etc. So the next option here, you see that there is a security setting, and you can basically, let's go ahead and edit this, and you'll see at a high level, you can tune by leveraging a whole bunch of categories to blocks. In this case, I have malware, command and control callbacks, and phishing attacks that I can, with a few clicks, enable a security setting to be able to block these unwanted sites. So now you start getting more and more granular as we look into the the other options here. So I have content setting applied. So let me go ahead and edit this, and here you'll be able to see a whole bunch of content categories that you can select and tune your network access so that you're only allowing the type of traffic that you'd like to for users connecting in. So maybe I want to block gambling sites, maybe I want to block some social media site access, or whatever something is considered not required for business purposes. So you can basically select all these categories, and these categories are all dynamically updated with new domains or changes in domains and all that. So eventually, basically, you just have to select these category types and then say you want to block all of these required category types and return back. You have another option here where you can do tenant controls. And when I edit this to show you, so you will basically see, for example, if you have Microsoft Office 365 for your corporate domain, if you would not like to allow, basically, if you'd like to restrict, personal tenant access or personal Office 365 account access when connected to the corporate domain, you can leverage this tenant control to make sure only the corporate domain access is available for these type of cloud applications like Office 365, Google Suite, or Slack. When I come back to walk through the other options, you have another option here for application settings. And this is where, when we did the Facebook block test earlier to be able to block social media applications, I was able to do that from here. So in this case, I have a whole bunch of application categories. I can select and block the entire category in this case, or be very granular and say just probably want to block a few sites. And then in this case, get even more granular and see that not just block, maybe you could say you can allow access, but just block posting, or sharing content for this particular social media application. And this becomes very useful for something like Dropbox, wherein you'll be able to very granularly define the security enforcement, wherein I can say, maybe I want to allow access to Dropbox, but not allow uploading files to Dropbox to conserve bandwidth, maybe, or for security restrictions. So you can allow users to be able to download files from Dropbox, but not upload files from the corporate network. So you could get as granular as that. That was a quick example as well. Now, what are the other options? Moving to the right side from top to down. So I've got what is called destination list. So when I enable this, you see you'll get an option to define a whole bunch of URLs or IP addresses, or domains, to be able to block these types of destinations and put in a simple destination list to be able to more granularly tune your security enforcement requirements. You have another option here to be able to do file analysis, wherein by a toggle here, you can turn on file inspection, wherein all the files that are traversing your network will be analyzed, and the hash of those files calculated and lookup done to make sure we understand the disposition of those files, whether they're malicious, whether they're clean. So if the files are clean, then we allow the traffic to that particular file to be exchanged in the network. So you can turn on file inspection easily over here. Now, for unknown files, you can turn on threat grid malware analysis, so that for these new and unknown files, you can send these files to threat grid cloud. And from where you'll be able to do sandboxing and testing and do a whole bunch of analysis there, and then get the feedback to eventually find out whether this new file is deemed malicious or not. And if it is malicious, you can do retrospectively, analyze and understand where the files have traversed in the network and take necessary enforcement actions. Now, going to the next item, so you see here the option to be able to control what type of files are traversing the network. And you have a whole bunch of file types here. You can maybe go and say, all right, I maybe don't want to allow executable files to be exchanged for specific VRFs or specific departments in the company and block very granularly or the entire categories to simply enforce these sort of rules based on, again, the business requirements. When I come back here, there's another option over here where you can customize your block page settings, wherein instead of getting just a plain umbrella block page, you can actually customize this to be able to give additional information, like maybe some block page content, a company logo, or even additional information like giving the email address or contact information for administrators that the users can go and connect to flag some false positives maybe and request access as needed. So you can customize that as needed. So you have the other option to be able to enable HTTPS inspection, and given these days most of the traffic is encrypted that's going out there in the internet, so you can turn on HTTPS inspection again with the click of a button, and you can exclude very specific domains which you don't want to inspect to decrypt this traffic as well, and basically send all the other traffic to be able to be decrypted in Umbrella through a HTTPS inspection. One of the things I want to highlight here is to make sure that you would want to install the root certificate of Umbrella into these end user machines so that they don't get certificate warnings, since Umbrella will be doing the SSL decryption when you turn on HTTPS inspection. Now, those were a whole bunch of enforcement actions you can take when you're deploying such web policies in this case. When you scroll down, you also see the option to log all these requests so that any activity that happens, and whether a website is blocked, an application is blocked, or basically what type of applications or domains that users are accessing, you'll be able to get all of those logs within the Umbrella portal. Now let's take a look at going to the reporting section in terms of what type of activity information you can gather from Umbrella. So I go to my activity search section over here, and here you can see a whole bunch of logs in here indicating the type of traffic that is traversing the network. So in this case, let's take a look at specifically blocked traffic. So we did do some tests earlier, wherein in this case, you can see straight away Facebook being blocked when we did the test earlier. So you can click on this and get more details, and you'll get information regarding, all right, where did this traffic come from? This came from my branch, IPsec. This is the branch detail, and IPsec 1 tunnel, as you can see. And the facebook.com was blocked. This was blocked as part of a default web policy in this case. Or if you had multiple such policies, it'll clearly define here what was the policy that caused this specific traffic to be blocked. What is the internal IP address of the user machine? What was the agent, the user agent from where this request came in, that this was a Mozilla Firefox a browser, what was the eventual action, what category, etc., so that you have a lot of context around each of these logs corresponding to the traffic that is traversing the network. Let's go back and maybe check another example wherein when we blocked traffic to port 444, and this was, if you remember, based on the firewall rule. So when I go and expand on this particular log information, I do see that this was blocked based on the destination port 444, and the rule name that blocked this was port block 444. This was our firewall rule specifically that blocked this as required. So those are a couple of examples to show you, how you implement the SASE integration for Sd-Wan and Umbrella, and how you can basically deploy your security needs in a matter of few minutes, as I illustrated in this case, and also get visibility into what's happening in the network very granularly. The other thing that I want to highlight before we wrap up this session is the app discovery. So in this case, you have visibility into all the types of applications that are running in your network, so that you have deeper insights into what type of the applications that customers or the end users are leveraging in the network. Maybe you see in this case, I've got in terms of social networking category, when I click on details, I do see in this example though, probably just Facebook, which is being accessed. But in a real production environment, you'll see a whole bunch of applications that your end users might be using. And what you can do with that sort of information is understand what is probably the risk level of such applications in use, what type of traffic, what amounts of traffic are going through, what type of identities are leveraging such applications, and then being able, and with this sort of information, you can go and fine tune the application control based on this information that you get now holistically for the network. And maybe for Facebook, you see a lot of throughput going through. You can go and apply some controls over there, maybe restricting for some identities, so on and so forth. With that, we come to the end of this session. Thank you for joining. Hope this was useful. Take care and have a good day.